Hi, Philip Lowe here from Blank Paper International. Let's have a look at the screencast on Kaizen events and what they are. Alright, so what's a Kaizen event? It's a method of implementing business improvements very quickly. So the whole idea behind a Kaizen event is action-orientated, observe the process, quick analysis, implement. It's typically focused on fixing a problem, has the potential for faster, more dramatic improvement. So because these Kaizen events are run typically any time between multiple 2-hour events or a 4.5 day event, that in that time period we're meant to implement improvements. So we're getting improvements implemented very quickly. And if we keep repeating these and running these at regular intervals, then we can get some dramatic improvements. Very action orientated. So the whole key about a Kaizen event is plenty of action. Analyze the problem very quickly and implement. It's a potential for breakthrough successes. So if we run enough of these Kaizen events, and I've been involved in a number of companies where we've been running 4 of these a month, and you get quite dramatic improvement. It's a tool for cultural change. So if you keep running and run these Kaizen events on regular intervals, you can really change the culture. These Kaizen events are typically fairly narrowly focused. So unlike a Lean Sigma project, which is really designed, or a Six Sigma project, which is designed for a big problem that we don't know the solution to, Kaizen events are designed where we generally know the solution. So when I say generally know the solution, I mean we know the direction of the solution. We won't know exactly what the issue is and what we're going to implement, but we'll know what sort of thing. For instance, we might do a setup change improvement, or we could know that we're going to map the process and take out the waste. So we know that we're going to do an issue analysis, and we'll focus on those key issues that are slowing down the process. Also, got to have a mandate set by senior management. So senior management have to tell the Kaizen team what problem they want solved. So it's got to be an important problem. So in terms of overall culture of Kaizen events, one of the keys is being quick, but imperfect is better than being perfect but late. So we don't want 100% solutions, we just want 80% solutions. The key thing is about speed. All right, one of the other key underlying themes is creativity before capital. So what we want to do here is we want to use our ideas before we spend money. We've got to have an organization that's poised and biased for action. What we mean by that is we need to have, when we're running a Kaizen, we need to have the rest of the organization to be prepared to support the Kaizen in a very proactive manner and very responsive manner. Mastery of Kaizen tools and knowledge of the business. So generally the team members don't need to know a lot about Kaizen, but certainly the facilitator would do. Very critical that we get operator involvement. So those that work in the process need to fix the process. This is about rapid implementation. So generally for a course of a Kaizen, let's say we're running a 4-day Kaizen, we would expect that 60, 70, 80% of those actions that have been identified in that Kaizen are implemented in the Kaizen. And then we generally have what we call a 30-day action plan, where by the end of the follow-up 30 days, all the rest of the actions have been implemented. We need to make heroes of the people who fix the problem. So we need to publicise the results of this and make the people understand that they've made a real significant contribution. Testing, learning, continuous improvement starts and ends with the people working in the process. We've talked about that. Okay, Kaizen, key thing, mandate set by management. So the goals of the Kaizen, the management needs to set the charter and the objectives. Goals are deliberately stretched so that teams think outside the box. So we're not going for a 1 or 2% improvement. We're going for a 20, 30, 40, 50% improvement. So if the goals are small, people will think small. The idea of a Kaizen is big stretch goals, so they have to think outside the box. And it's usually better that we start with the process bottleneck. So with the Kaizen, we want to be focused on the bottlenecks, because if we focus on the bottlenecks, we'll get a bigger system-wide improvement and more importantly, not a localized improvement. Typical projects we're taking waste out of the process. So usually on a transactional type project, we're looking at mapping the process. What are all the steps? What are all the hassles in the process? What are all the issues that we've got in the process? Take that waste out and speed it up. We want to use less resources, improve process outcomes. Maybe we want to improve the quality of the outcomes. And typically we always increase the throughput on one of these Kaizen events. So keys for successful Kaizen event: clear definition of the problem. We've got to have a well-defined problem, and we've got to have well-defined project goals. Project boundaries. So what are we allowed to change and what aren't we allowed to change? Clear statement of requirements and expectations for everyone. So we need to set right up front very clearly, what are the start times during the Kaizen event? What are the finish times? What's the timetable that we're following? What's the expectations? And my experience is that we need to set them even more clearer in a transactional environment than, say, a manufacturing environment. We need to have assigned responsibility. We need to have a fairly realistic time frame for completion. We've talked about a charter and demonstrated leadership support. Some of the key roles: we have a project sponsor and champion. Now, they own the project and the results and the event. And one of the key roles of them is they've got to be able to break down barriers if the team has any issues and any problems. So maybe, we need some action that's not been taken as the team requires, then we need to get the champion involved. We've got to have a team leader and facilitator. So the facilitator is responsible for progressing the team through the stages of the Kaizen event. Team members, we need to have subject matter experts, so those that work in the process, and often we'll include outsiders. So that's people from outside the organisation to come in and give us a total different perspective on what we're doing. Now, there will be some prep work for team members, and they could have some follow-up actions as a result of the Kaizen. And we've spoken about the Kaizen facilitator. The facilitator is responsible for helping prepare the team, facilitating the event, and aiding and following up on the follow-up actions. So part of a Kaizen, one of the keys is getting the preparation right. So we're talking about the charter and the contract, organising team meetings. It's great if you can have a prior meeting with the whole team so everyone gets to know each other, because remember, they might not know each other that well. And I like to prepare a SIPOC or a very high level process map of the process before I start. That just gives me a grounding and understanding of what's happening, because remember, I don't work in the process, so I like to have that SIPOC. And data collection: if I see any data that's may need to be collected, and where would I find that from? I'd have a look at that from looking at the SIPOC or the high level process map. I'll collect the data beforehand. So proper preparation is key for success. Usually we have 30 days to prepare for a Kaizen. That's what we normally would say. Now, sometimes I've run them with only 2 hours of notice, 4 hours of notice. So it can be done in a lot less time, but it's all a risk reward basis. So the less time you have, the greater the risk of not being successful. Team composition. Okay, we've spoken about this before. We need operators for the process, demonstrated management commitment. If we get some people with some C&I or creativity and innovation skills, that's fantastic. And we're looking for those outsiders if we can. All right, so that's a quick overview of Kaizen events. Thanks for listening.